Backed by popular demand, we've got another roundup of the best everyday carry gear on Amazon under $50. Let's get into it. First up is the tiny ALPAKA Zip Pouch. This is essentially a little zippered wallet, weighs 40 grams, and it measures 5.11 inches by 3.34 inches. The exterior is X-Pack with an orange ripstop nylon interior, really great visibility if you're trying to dig in for something. They also use YKK AquaGuard zippers, so between that and the X-Pack fabric, this would be a really great option if you're sensitive to water for your job or you do a lot of water sports, hiking, anything like that. You can kind of seal this up and not have to worry about it very much. The layout is incredibly simple. You have one main compartment with a divider down the center. I found that this leaves plenty of room for cash and cards. And obviously, like I mentioned, you can put coins in here and zip it up, no problem. You also have an additional zippered pocket on the outside exterior if you want to keep your coins in there or any other little tiny trinkets you don't want to lose. The pouch is RFID blocking too, so you don't need to worry about thieves if you're taking this out and about. The overall construction here is pretty good. I noticed a little bit of sloppy stitching here and there, but definitely nothing too bad. Definitely check it out if a zippered wallet is your thing. I'm personally always finding uses for stuff like this for camping and backpacking. The hunt for the best folding knife under $50 continues. We've got the CJRB Pyrite. I am a huge fan of the mini Praxis if you're on a budget and want a great folding pocket knife. That is still the king, but I've been looking for alternatives for a couple of years and haven't had a ton of luck, but I have to say I'm pretty impressed with this one as an alternative. Going over some of the specs, it's 4.25 inches closed and 7.6 inches in total length. The blade is a 3.34 inch AR RPM 9 steel Wharncliffe blade. This is my first time using a knife with this steel. I think it's proprietary to Artisan Cutlery. It's a little bit of a softer steel, so you're able to sharpen it really nice and sharp, but it's not going to have as good of edge retention. It's always the toss-up when you're on a tighter budget. You can get a harder steel or you can get something that's a little bit easier to sharpen. No real complaints here. You just have to manage your expectations with a budget folding blade. It's a button lock system with thumb studs. I found the action to be pretty solid, especially at this price point. In this version, the blade has a black PVD coating and it uses an amber FRN handle. There are a ton of other choices with G10 and kind of non-coated steel. I got this one for $40, I believe, maybe less on Prime Day. They tend to swing around a $30 to $50 price point, so definitely check it out. I personally found this to be better than the QSP Penguin. I know a lot of people love that knife if you're on a budget. I personally kind of had a bad experience to the point where I wonder if I had a dud and I should probably check it out again sometime. The mini Praxis is still the king for me, but this is a really great alternative if it suits you a little better. Next up, we've got the CASIO LF30, brand new for this year. You all convinced me in the comments of the last video to finally pick this one up after talking about the LF20. I absolutely love it, and it might be my new favorite CASIO of all time. It's kind of like the World Time Watch CASIO Royale and the newer LF20 had a baby. You get the CASIO LF30 here. The case measures 37.8 millimeters by 33.7 millimeters. It only weighs 23 grams, so less than an ounce, and it is super thin, coming in at only 8.6 millimeters. This wears pretty small, but it's as expected with the case dimensions. You get all of the great stuff with any of the CASIO digital watches, timer, stopwatch, alarm clock, calendar. This also has the world time function where you can track multiple time zones, everything like that. Just such a great value. It comes in at $30 right now. Can't recommend it enough. Like I said, it might be my new favorite. Next up is the brand new INIU Pocket Rocket P50 power bank. INIU is also kind enough to sponsor this week's video, so a huge thanks to them. The P50 Pocket Rocket is the new king of tiny power banks. It's barely larger than an AirPods Pro case and only weighs 160 grams or 5.6 ounces thanks to the Tiny Cell Pro Tech. It's also absolutely packed with features you never see in batteries this size. It's capable of 45-watt fast charging from either of the USB-C ports. Charging a laptop or an iPad from something this small is absolutely crazy. It also supports Samsung's super fast charging 2.0. In addition to the two USB-C ports, it also has a USB-A port to cover any legacy tech if needed. There's also a built-in display for the remaining battery. And possibly my favorite feature, aside from the tiny size, is the lanyard that doubles as a fully detached 60-watt USB-C charging cable. This lanyard design is so clever and feels really sturdy. I love it. It's travel friendly and fully TSA compliant. It has a 3-year warranty and a ton of built-in safety features, and it's only $32.99. Between the portability, the 45-watt fast charging, and the budget price price point, this might just be the new default for ultralight travelers and backpackers. Be sure to check the links in the description down below, learn more for yourself. Huge thanks again to INIU for sponsoring this week's video. Calling all my elder millennials and Gen X folks, next up we have the Miyoo Mini V4 Retro Handheld. It's been a while since I've looked into this space. There have been so many new releases. This might just be my new favorite with the tiny form factor. For the uninitiated, there are a lot of handheld gaming options if you're a fan of retro games. You can play them on the go for so cheap with something like this. It is incredible and just a huge wave of nostalgia and fun. The next couple of details will vary a little bit depending on where you buy it. I picked mine up on Amazon. It came pre-installed with Onion OS, which is a real crowd favorite for the folks that are way more knowledgeable about these than me. This was my first time using Onion OS. I can definitely understand why. It's super intuitive and nice, and you get a ton of features in the operating system that weren't available on my Ambernick handheld from a couple of years ago. They generally will come preloaded with an enormous amount of games from a ton of different consoles, but it's also really easy to add them in yourself. You have a little micro SD card that you can take out, put in your computer. There are a lot of resources to find big packs of games. I found a lot of good info on Reddit as well as archive.org. People have compiled huge piles of games for everyone to share and enjoy. The Mini V4 is absolutely tiny though. It measures 3.68 inches by 2.55 inches by 0.7 inches, weighs a little over 100 grams. The display is really nice. It uses a 480p IPS display that's 2.8 inches. Plenty of brightness to be able to use at all times a day. You don't need the little, coiled light like the old Game Boy Colors. There's a 2000 milliamp hour battery in here. I found that it lasts quite a while, especially playing, low effort Nintendo type of games. It charges via USB-C too. Not all of these handhelds will be able to do a USB-C to USB-C type of cable. This will handle that just fine, so you don't have to worry about keeping a separate USB-A to C cable like some, lower powered electronics need. The speakers sound plenty good. You have a headphone jack as well. You have a lot of good grip from the mold on the body here. It looks awesome. It's super fun. This tiny form factor is even smaller than I expected, but the ergo really isn't too bad. I wouldn't want to go 4, 5, 6 hours with this, but I've been playing, Paperboy and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and stuff, and having a great time and I haven't had any issues. It comes out right now to $57. I picked this up during Prime Day for like $40, but the prices will vary quite a bit. You can get it well under, around a $30 range if you want to look around. Lots of options for pricing and how you want it configured, how many games, the choice is yours. That's a real tinkering type of device if you want it to be. Got a new flashlight up next. This is the Vastlite i7. I was actually unfamiliar with this brand. I'm testing this one and one that we're going to be talking about next week. I'm really impressed overall, and I just love these little tiny form factor lights in this budget price point. There's a ton of utility in these small lights that are going to cover most people's needs, and they're significantly better than your phone flashlight for $15.99. The i7 measures 3.22 inches in length and 0.6 inches in diameter. Even with the battery, it only weighs 30 grams, so just over an ounce. You have a max output of 545 lumens with 100 meters of throw. The operation is super simple. You just have one switch on the back and you can toggle through the different brightness levels. Super easy on and off, no fussing around with different modes or long clicks or anything like that. The tail switch design is really interesting and unlike any other light I've seen before. It almost has like a soft type of feel to it, and it wiggles around a little bit. I can imagine this will be a little bit divisive, but I actually kind of like it personally. It just makes it feel softer and a little more pleasant to touch. You have a strong magnet in the tail switch. It's IPX8 waterproof, and it actually can run on a standard AAA battery. You're going to see a bit of a drop in lumens if you use a regular AAA down to 200, I believe. But if you want, you can option this out with a rechargeable 10440 battery, or you can use your own 10440 battery and get the full brightness. Lowest setting has a 65-hour runtime. The pocket clip on here is really great and very functional. Sometimes they're just a bit too tight to actually use on your pockets. Really impressed with this overall, and like I said, these small lights that are cheap are going to cover most, normal people's needs that aren't big flashlight nerds, and it's such a huge upgrade from your phone flashlight. I'd highly recommend it. I'm putting a couple of other alternatives out there too with some different form factors if you want to check into those too. Got a pair of IEMs up next. These are the brand new KZ Vader Pro. If you remember, I think it was the last video in the series, I did a really budget option, the CCZ Duet. They were under $20. I was really impressed. I've gone fully down the rabbit hole of IEM headphones, and I'm just kicking myself I haven't done it sooner. The Vader Pros come out to $34, and they are definitely the best sounding headphones I've ever tested under $50. These came out a month or two ago. There are a couple of different options. I got the bass enhanced version with the microphone attached. Each side of the IEMs have 3 different drivers, one for treble, mids, and bass. And one of the things that makes these special is you can actually custom tune the drivers depending on your preferences. Before I got these, I thought it might be a little gimmicky, but I did actually test out a few different settings and noticed a pretty significant difference. There are 4 toggle switches on the top of each headphone, so you can adjust the amount of bass, treble, and mid. It's a fun curve on the EQ, but still quite balanced for my semi-trained ear. Bass is prominent, but still really controlled. The sound stage is incredible. You know, with these IEMs, you can pick out each individual instrument so easily compared to, you know, cheaper Bluetooth headphones. It's an entirely new listening experience. It's super wild, especially at this price point. It is absolutely worth a try if you're a bit of a music nerd like me. Being a bit picky with the sound, I think the upper mids could use just a little bit more presence. I couldn't really get that out to the way I wanted to, no matter which settings I had with these toggle switches. Again, though, they sound incredible and far better than anything else under $50 I've tested. I'm really curious to hear some of the higher end IEM models, because if these are budget options, they sound so good. I'm very much looking forward to diving in even further with this. The cables are removable, so presumably replaceable. Really good to see for long-term use. Now, the cable quality is okay. I would love a more braided cable on the exterior. You know, not bad, but not particularly good either. You get a few different sets of ear tips on here, so you can kind of custom fit that molded sound. I found the passive noise canceling to be really solid, but music nerds or people that aren't bothered by cables, you got to check some of these out if you never have before. You know, I've been around IEMs for a very long time in, you know, more professional contexts. I used to play a lot of music, and these are pretty commonplace for, you know, stages and things like that, but I've never used them just for music listening for fun. That was also like 10-15 years ago, and things have changed. Really incredible sound if you can live without some of the creature comforts of, you know, wireless Bluetooth earbuds. Next up, we have a Klein Tools precision screwdriver. This is the 32327 model. I actually learned about this from a recommendation from Snazzy Labs. Great channel. I'm sure you've probably heard of it already before. I'm always on the hunt for really cool and unique drivers. This is a really solid option for the low $20 price point. It's a 27-in-1 set. On the inside, you have built-in bit storage. There are 2 rows of 7 here. Most of these bits are double-sided, so you have a really solid variety of options. You know, this is going to cover most people's needs. You don't necessarily need to get one of those, 100 precision bit sets unless you're working on, taking apart MacBooks and crazy things like that. It's 8.75 inches in total length and 0.85 inches in diameter. It's definitely a little bit longer, but that's mostly going to be a positive if you're trying to get in really tight spaces. You also have a rotating base, so it's going to make it a little bit easier to operate, and not quite as good as a ratchet screwdriver, but the next best thing. The quality overall is really nice, especially for the price point. I did have a couple of complaints I wanted to mention though, just to make sure. The opening and closing of the bit storage is fine. It's just not super smooth. It locks into place though, which is a huge plus. I have other drivers with bit storage underneath, and I find that they get unscrewed as I use them. This kind of snaps into place, and that hasn't been a problem at all. It's just not super smooth and satisfying to pull it in and out. The other thing I wanted to mention though, it's 3.5 millimeter precision bits. The common standard size is 4 millimeters. I have no idea why they would want to do, a custom proprietary size. That's just going to make it a little bit more limiting. But like I said, you kind of get everything that you need in here for most basic tasks. Worth checking out if you're on a budget and in need of a precision driver set. Definitely staying in my kit to test further over the next year or two. Next up, we have the Civivi Elementum Mini. This is a full tang, tiny fixed blade Elementum. I've actually had this for a couple of years, but just haven't found a good spot to talk about it. It's a little silly, but the quality is actually really great. Total length is 4.96 inches. It only weighs 22 grams. It is is super light. You just have these little scale attachments onto the full tang blade. I've got the Jaborsha wood handle one here, but they do have a G10 version as well. It's a Nitro V drop point steel blade. It comes with this really great tiny Kydex sheath that is actually really good quality. Locks into place really well. I actually am going to test this out as a neck knife for backpacking. Just comes in really handy for like cutting snacks and packages and stuff when you're out on the trail. You know, it only weighs a couple of ounces even with this little Kydex sheath, and you know, comes in handy for applications like that. With that in mind, that's why I've hesitated talking about this so long. The tiny size really limits the usability. But if you have need for a little tiny knife like this, the quality is great and comes in at about 50 bucks, which is a little steep, but good quality, tiny, you know, potentially a purpose-built niche type of option if you need it. Got a classic up next. This is the Lochby Venture Pouch. This is a real long-term favorite for me. I had a comment the other day asking when or if I was going to talk about some of the Lochby pouches. I've talked about them in so many videos over the past couple of years. I was surprised to hear that. So I thought maybe it would be a good time for a refresher. This is probably my favorite of their entire lineup. They're honestly all really good. The Venture Pouch has a really unique design. You can open up the main top compartment here and it looks like a pretty standard type of pouch. You have a divider in the center, couple of mesh pouches, and you know, you can fit a couple of things in there. But you flip it around and that divider that you saw in the main pouch becomes a little mini like tool or pen roll on the underside. It's a really clever idea and I found quite a few uses for it over the past year and a half that I've had it. It measures 9 inches by 4.75 inches by 2 inches in thickness. The exterior is a waxed canvas, one of the many reasons I love the Lochby stuff, and the interior is this really great yellow honeycomb ripstop grid type of pattern. The only critique I've ever come up with for this was the top opening, because you need to have this full 3-sided opening to get to the bottom. Makes it a little bit tough to get in here sometimes. You know, having it split a little more 50-50 on the sides might make it more functional for this top compartment. Otherwise though, it's great. Worth checking out some of the other Lochby stuff too. If you missed it in all the other videos, I probably reviewed like 6 of their items. Check out the site. All the quality is similar and a lot of the design and style is similar. It's just a matter of what size and what type of organization you want. So check these out if you haven't already. Hopefully I caught some of the new folks that might have not seen the older videos on some of that stuff. I always am torn on when to talk about stuff I've talked about before. You know, I don't want it to get too boring and repetitive, but I also want to make sure the new folks are seeing, you know, the best of the best that we've been having around here for so many years. That is the end of the list though. Thank you all so much for watching. I'd love to hear if you have any cool budget gear down in the comments. Roast me about my thoughts on the QSP Penguin. You all usually do. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you for watching though, and I'll talk to you in the next one.